The date is Friday, March 25th, and you're listening to Entertain This, a thought-provoking podcast encapsulating all things entertainment. On this episode, we're talking about one of the series that Nintendo built its video game empire upon, The Legend of Zelda. With a sequel to Breath of the Wild around the corner, we had to bring on a guest to fill us in on all the details of the series and the complicated lore behind it. So enjoy.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to your favorite podcast on the internet, covering all things entertainment. It's entertainment.
Cool.
That was pretty good.
Yeah,
I didn't know that.
Tried to match it up a little bit, but some things
was-
work, some things don't.
That was very good. Guys, welcome back to another week of the show. We're continuing on, trekking on. Not Star Trekking on, because I don't think any of us are Trekkies. Does anybody here like Star Trek?
It's unfortunate.
Is it bad that none of us participate in that form of media? Does that
No.
make us an unreliable source?
I have a backpack that's a Trek brand, but that's about it.
It's probably the closest that we're gonna get.
Mm-hmm.
Something like that.
I have a cold open. I'm afraid to do it.
Just do it.
Okay.
Is the cold open that you're afraid to do a cold open?
Great job. Excellent
I'm
bit.
I'm just nervous to do it.
Don't be
the
a
cold
nervous
open.
Purvis.
Do it.
A nervous purpose.
That's Ned
Guys,
Flanders.
just if I do this cold open, you gotta promise. You gotta promise that you'll have my back, okay?
All right.
You promise that you'll support me through this?
Sure.
Don't say anything offensive, I guess. Or do.
No, just reach out, virtually hold my hands. Thank you. Okay, here we go. This week on the podcast, we have co-host of the Big Chicken Bits podcast. We have Mr. John Kincaid. Let's welcome John.
Hey, John.
Hello, everybody. I'm so excited to not talk about chicken.
Talk about chicken on your podcast.
Yeah.
Curse has been lifted.
We are exclusive. Yeah, this is gonna be very refreshing for me. You know, it's great. I feel like I've returned home after a long journey. You know,
That
it's
is
been
theoretically
ages.
true.
Mhm.
You've been on this show. You were one of our first guests that we ever had, and now we're at episode 104 of Entertain This.
Come a long
Yeah.
way.
Crazy.
You actually took on the role as the third host for 1 month while we were
Mhm.
getting through. So you are a veteran of this show, a very old friend of our show.
That's right. And
We
now I'm a
appreciate your
current
ongoing
friend.
loyalty. Yeah, of course. a current friend.
Just
as
for
well.
now, though. We might dump you later.
Yeah, and then I'll
Hey.
be back in another 100 eps.
Another 100 we do our one Mr. Kincaid episode. We bring
That's
him
right.
on. So,
That's
John,
right.
as I understand it, well, first off, thank you for being our guest this week.
Of course.
We always appreciate our guests who come on and spend the time with us. But I want to talk a little bit before we get into it, because I know you brought something for us to talk about, right?
Oh, did I?
Hopefully,
Great.
you did,
Oh, did
right?
Great.
Right?
But I want to talk about it's such a treat to have two young podcasteers here just beginning their podcasting journey. You guys are John and Nick. Nick, this must be weird because this is like if there were a Venn diagram of podcasts, there is like the podcast Entertain This and the podcast Big Chicken Bits, and then that little middle area is Nick. So
Yeah,
like
weird.
though you are a host of this show, I am now going to talk to you as though you were a guest on this show. So just deal
Yeah.
with that. You guys decided to
my
do
mind
Big
around it.
Chicken Bits,
Yeah.
which is this like other podcast that you guys are working on. How many episodes do you guys have out right now? How deep in the roots are you?
Is it 3?
I think 3 are out. I think we've
3
recorded
are out
4
so
or
far. We got
5.
6 recorded.
Okay, great.
6.
Yeah.
Nice.
So, if I understand correctly, it is like a variety show that was spilt onto the ground and then thrown into a collective bucket, correct?
I think the
a
germ of
KFC
this
big
idea,
bucket, if you will.
this all started because, you know, as Nick and I met, our immediate connection became with our bits. You know, we have a very similar sense of humor. And so now that we don't work together, we have all these bits that are building up inside of us and we need to get them out somehow, some way.
Disgusting.
And so it's true. And now I feel like I have a release to get all my bits out. And that is BCB.
BCB podcast.
That's right.
That's awesome. So you guys are podcasting together now, and I imagine you guys are having a pretty good time. Did you find it easy to just kind of click into an audio format?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, we already had all the audio infrastructure set up, so it always seemed natural to record it and release it into the world for bad or for good. So it just gives us an opportunity to do bits, record them, share them with the world, because otherwise we share them with each other and drive our significant others crazy.
Incredible.
Because they don't know what's going on half the time.
But your audience does, right?
I sure hope so.
Awesome.
If not now, then maybe someday.
If not
It will
now,
be
when?
revealed.
If there's some hidden lore in Big Chicken Bits that as the episodes go on slowly starts to play out into one big storyline that ends up being super intense and full of lore, I'm going to lose my collective shit.
Well, interesting you should say that.
I guess you'll just have to stay tuned.
I guess there kind of is.
That's exciting.
I don't want to spill the beans here, but it's pretty big.
Spill the what?
The beans.
Is this one of your big bits? Is that what it is? It's one of your big chicken bits.
We had a boss at the company we worked at, and we just thought, because they always called her Bob. That was her initials, and
she wanted a cool nickname that she gave herself, and so we gave her a lame nickname that we, called her behind her back.
Yeah, like, oh, watch out for beans.
Beans.
So that is one of the bits. I get it.
It's
okay, cool. Well, that's enough pleasantries. Let's move on. Hey, John, what'd you bring us today?
Oh boy, so I've been thinking a lot recently about one little series that's very near and dear to my heart. Every couple of years, it decides to just tear at it a little bit more because I'm so anticipating the next release. And
you said the word release a lot.
It's a lot, Alex. There's a lot building up in me. I can't help it. I think I will be after this episode. I think I have a lot of thoughts. I have a lot of opinions. I have a lot of things to say. And I recently did a quick this in which I talked about this series in a way. I mentioned it. And that series is The Legend of Zelda.
Ooh.
That's right. Right. So I want to talk about, so this series has been going on since 1986. This is an old series. This is one of the columns that Nintendo built their brand on early in the days. So there's so many games out. There's no way I'm going to talk about them all. So I think it would be fun if I speak a little bit about the lore of Zelda games, because for a long time, the lore was a little ambiguous. It was always, here's a good guy and here's a bad guy, and then they fight, right?
And then they fuck.
And then they have children. One climactic conclusion. They come together, and it's a classic tale of good versus evil. But if you dig a little bit deeper, there is some more storytelling behind the scenes. And here's the thing. I do not think it's much of a spoiler to talk about the lore, even if you haven't played the games. In fact, I think knowing some of the lore actually enhances your experience. For example, I know Nick, he's playing the latest Zelda game in the main series, Breath of the Wild, came out in 2017. I'm going to talk a little bit about the lore. And in no way do I think it's going to inhibit his enjoyment from playing that game, because that's not where that comes from. It comes from the gameplay and the fights, the battles, the spectacle, the exploration. so I think I'm just going to talk a little bit about the lore, some of the games that fit into that lore, and then if we have time, I might gush a little bit because this is my favorite video game series of all time, and it has been since I was just a wee lad.
A wee little lad.
A wee little boy.
I
You were
remember.
shocked.
I remember my first experience playing Legend of Zelda was like the original Legend of Zelda game. I had ported it onto my like faux BlackBerry cell phone.
Oh God.
GoRom.com,
So,
right?
but it was
Oh,
like one of
yes.
those squares that you would like flick it up and then there'd be a keyboard.
Nice.
Yeah.
So I would play it on that keyboard, Legend of Zelda, and it was the only game that I could get on that phone. So like I spent hours playing that game.
That is a rough introduction to the series.
Correct.
And yet he still played it, so I don't know.
Oh yeah, because it was fun still. I mean, it was for what it was, which was like a side-scrolling, like 2D pixelated adventure story. There was still that feeling of exploration that you get from like the games that come out nowadays. I mean, Breath of the Wild, of course, has that feeling, but like even the new Pokemon game or even Grand Theft Auto has like this certain level of wandering and exploration that somehow they captured on this smaller game, which was really impressive.
Before I begin, Alex, you started off perfectly. I wanted to talk to everybody about their experience with Zelda, just so I get an idea of where you're coming from. Nick, you've played one game.
It's going to be a
Alex,
short one for me. Let's say that
Alex,
much.
Alex, you started with the first. What else have you dove into?
Yeah, so I played the very first, and then I got a 3DS, and when they ported over Majora's Mask and Ocarina of Time onto the 3DS, I played them on the 3DS. I'm a mobile gamer. I kind of talked about this mostly with just like Chloe when we're alone, but if I have to play a long form game, it has to be mobile. I have to be able to take it places, or I'm not going to play it because when I sit down, I want to play like quick matches. Like I play the game and then when it's over, I'm done. I don't have to like come back to it or remember what's going on. I don't have the like bandwidth for that kind of play. But if it's something I take with me, then I'll play it, especially when I couldn't drive and was being driven places. So I played through Majora's Mask and Ocarina of Time. And then Chloe got me started after I skipped a couple on the Wii and the Wii U, you know, the consoles that everyone had a Wii, but nobody had a Wii U.
No.
I did because
Yeah,
I'm a
of course.
nerd.
Of course you did. But Chloe got me on the game that Nick's playing now, which name is now escaping me.
Breath of the Wild.
Thank you.
There
Breath
we
of
go.
the Wild,
Botched
and I
with-
played it for a little bit, but then that was when I discovered that long form gaming just wasn't for me. So like
Interesting.
as I was playing through it, I was like, I have no like clear objective. I have no real like destination in mind right now. I would like to get a horse. That's like where I'm at right now. And then I was like, I don't think I'm having fun. And so I just kind of stopped playing that one. It was a
Fair
bit too
enough.
open for me, I think.
Fair enough. I have seen people with that same kind of, they hit that brick wall where it's, I don't know what I'm supposed to be doing. I need a little bit of direction here.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the beauty of that game is that you don't have too much of a direction. I wandered around for probably 20 hours before I did the first dungeon.
Mm-hmm.
Michael, what about you?
Yeah, so I'm kind of the opposite of Alex. To give you an idea, I'm coming off of basically a week-long binge of Elden Ring, where I've put in close to 80 hours over the course of like a week and a half.
You kiss your mother with that mouth, Michael?
Yeah.
Christ.
No, wait, no.
Sometimes.
That is so many hours, my man.
Yeah, it's way too many. But in that same vein, the same thing as you, John, with Breath of the Wild. It's like, cool, let me get like the powers, and then I see a shrine, I go to that shrine. It's like I don't care what the main story is. Like I see blue light, I'm going towards it.
Exactly.
To the point where it's like I completely missed the introductory like combat tutorial shrine, and like I came back to it after I had already beaten like all of the like superior like challenges of might and all that, and it's just
You're souped up.
Yeah, I get there and it's like I've got the master sword and everything. It's like, here's how you do a side hop.
Crazy. Love it.
But no, like, I mean, Zelda was also like one of my main core franchises growing up. One of my first games I ever played was Link to the Past on the Super SNES. And from there, I didn't actually own Ocarina of Time for a long time, so I just watched one of my best friends play it. But after that, owned it, beat it. Majora's Mask, owned it, beat it. Probably one of my favorite games of all time is Ocarina of Time. Ocarina of Time is easily one of my favorite games of all time. That was actually probably the first game that I beat like front to back and like made an effort of like going back and trying to 100% it.
Right.
And same with played like all of the Game Boy Advance games like Four Swords, Minish Cap.
Love Minish Cap, dude.
Minish Cap is so good.
Love Minish Cap.
Yeah, so I'm a long time storied fan of the Zelda franchise, which like when you opened up with like I am going to talk about the lore, I was like, oh boy, where is he going to go with this?
Can I ask a loaded question just because I'm curious? I'm going to take a brief survey of our 4-person group here, 4 white Caucasian men with seeing problems. Michael's not wearing his glasses right now, or else we'd all look the exact same. How many of you guys, once you got a steady job and realized how easy it was to purchase things on the internet, got an Ocarina?
Oh, I have not. No,
that has been in my shopping cart on Amazon for about 3 years.
I owned an Ocarina for a while.
What's an ocarina? I'm sorry.
It's an instrument that looks
I'm out of the loop.
It looks a bit like a potato with a pipe in it.
Mm-hmm.
The version that you see in the games is called a potato ocarina. That is the actual name of it. Yeah,
I nailed that on accident.
You did. You did.
So do you blow into it and you go?
Yeah. Well, yeah. It's kind of like a whistle.
It's kind of like a recorder.
It is exactly like a recorder. Correct.
Okay.
Yeah. It is a potato-shaped recorder, is what it is.
But hopefully less annoying.
No.
Well, in the Zelda series, it can send you through time. So
but in real life, it
that's
cannot. I can confirm.
I tried.
I've tried.
I broke my ocarina, so I no longer have an ocarina because they are usually. Here's a fun fact for you: made of porcelain material or porcelain-like material. So they're very fragile.
And the Zelda series goes very in depth with the creation of the ocarina. You know, you see it being made and spun and, you know, porcelain and all that. That's actually a very important part of those games, seeing the creation of the ocarina. I'm just totally messing with you.
Yeah, I was about to say, like, I don't remember that part, but sure.
Keeping you on your toes.
We never call anyone out for being wrong. We actually have hired help to do that.
I self-corrected myself. So
if not, Chloe would have jumped on you.
Yeah.
I honestly, through all my notes that I have, I hope I'm wrong so I can hear a correction. Because I would love to just know more about this series. It's very important to me. But
she'll let you know.
Yeah.
Well, all of
either she will or I will, because I'll probably catch this stuff before she even gets a chance to go.
I love it.
What I love is that our guests are always most excited to be fact checked by Chloe. That is an ongoing thing that keeps happening. Is that every time a guest comes on, they're like, "I hope Chloe fact checks me." I'm like, "Don't worry, she probably will."
So all of you, through your different experiences with the game, you all hit on one thing, and that's exploration. And that is actually the germ of how this series came to be. So, in 1984, Nintendo's like, man, we have to make something, and we have to call it the Nintendo Entertainment System, and it's going to revolutionize video games. Okay. One of those things that they made was Super Mario Brothers. Very straightforward, side-scrolling, action platformer, set the world on fire, right?
Yeah. So created by the beautiful mind of Shigeru Miyamoto.
Exactly. And another thing that Miyamoto was thinking about, he's like, you know what? Mario is cool and all, but I remember when I was a kid, I'd be like going around and you have to talk about this when you talk about Zelda, right?
Yeah,
you have to talk about it. He's in the woods as a kid. He's like hitting things with sticks. He's going in mountains and he's finding caves. He's making a slingshot out of, twigs that he finds. And he's thinking, man, this would make a cool video game. That exploration, that feeling of you don't know what's going to be out there. So at the same time as they're making Mario, they think, okay, let's recreate that feeling by making a 2-player dungeon creator / player. So one person makes a dungeon, the other person plays the dungeon. And then they're like, you know what? That sucks. Playing the dungeon's much more fun. Let's just make a game all about that. What are we doing wasting our time? This is 1985. We cannot make a game this complex. It's too much.
This sucks. Let's make it Mario Maker in like 30 years.
now we've got something here.
Oh, there it is.
And so what that game came out to be was The Legend of Zelda in 1986. This was so in this time on the Nintendo, these video games, very small. It's kind of hard to make these games. Not many people are game developers who've been in the business for decades, because gaming hasn't been around for that long. So a lot of people made video games to last based on difficulty. So, oh man, this is so hard, but I'm going to keep playing it. Video games are expensive. They're $60, $70. Yeah. Nintendo took the other approach in Zelda and making it, not solely based on difficulty, although it was a difficult game, but it's also about discovery. It's about secrets. It's about looking around, talking to your friend. Hey, you could burn that bush over there and there's a secret castle. There you go. You're getting this longevity. You're getting this conversation going. That's something that's been in the series since day one. But that first game, what was the story? It was, you're a guy and, you got to kill Ganon. I think your name is Zelda or something, and you got to kill him. Whatever.
That
clearly
threw me off. Like when I first learned about these games. Oh, it's Legend of Zelda. So you play Zelda, right?
It threw us all
off. So
the
first time, like just about anyone plays these games, like they give you the option to name your character. It's like, I'm Zelda. I have to be Zelda. And then you actually meet Zelda. It's like, oh, I'm such a fucking idiot.
I don't think there was anyone whose first experience hearing about Legend of Zelda wasn't assuming that Link was Zelda. And then having to be corrected aggressively.
Actually,
Zelda's the princess. You're playing the character Link, and he's actually a really cool dude. Why would they name him Zelda?
He's actually like super strong, and he's like super chill.
If you like him so much, why don't you marry him? And then people would beat you up, and then so on and so forth.
Take your lunch money.
But that's my trauma. We can move past it.
Thank you for sharing, Alex.
Of course.
It's very important for the group to share your traumas with the world.
That's what this podcast is all about, baby.
It's about letting it out. It's about that release, Alex. See, we're coming back to it. It's about that release.
I don't like this bit.
See that coming. Quit the bit.
So listen, this is, I would even posit that since day one and for about, 20 years, story was never the driving factor of these games. As they would come out over time, fans would make their own versions of a timeline, but none of it was solidified, and it was confusing.
I remember this Legend of Zelda timeline being so complicated. It wasn't until like recently that Nintendo came out and was like, "This is the timeline," and everyone was like, "Oh, this is nothing like what I thought it was," or people were like, "Oh, that makes a lot of sense." Like nobody really knew where everything was, because it's like one of the first games to involve like time travel and like shit like that.
Yeah, and like even the Nintendo official timeline is still just like, what is happening?
Something
here?
like this.
Yeah, they're like, well, you see, the timeline happens on both a vertical and a horizontal axis. So in this timeline, and then in this timeline, and then these timelines come together, and then this happened in all the timelines, and you're like, what?
I didn't come here for math. You're talking about axes. Like
they sell like a poster of the Legend of Zelda timeline, and it looks like a freaking web the way that it is like sprawled out.
My goodness.
Well, and it's confusing because before that timeline came out in about 2011, I believe, you're playing these games, and every game I'm playing as Link and I'm saving Zelda and I'm fighting similar enemies. I'm seeing similar characters. I'm going to the same places, but they all look different. So my first thought, and what's correct, is that you're playing different people kind of like the same bloodline over hundreds or thousands of years. Lots of time is passing between these games. And I never really cared about how they connected, but it is interesting to know that, okay, there is a way to talk about them, and they sort of semi click together. The puzzle pieces do fall into place a little bit, and it does enhance my enjoyment of knowing, oh, this is what's going on in this game, and oh, that is happening from the last game. And it's not directly spoken about for the most part. There are very few direct sequels in Zelda, Majora's Mask being one, Phantom Hourglass being another, where you are playing the same Link from the past game.
Oracles of Seasons and Ages.
Exactly. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Breath of the Wild 2, whenever that comes out, I guess it's the same Link. I don't know much about it. No one does. But it's confusing. And then, Nintendo releases a whole thing, and we're going to get to that. But
it kind of reminds me of like the timeline explanation in BioShock, Nick, where it's like there's always a lighthouse. There's always like there are all of these collective universes, but there are always these staple things that happen.
There are always constants and there are always variables.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
We just talked about that, right, guys?
Yeah.
Great up.
I thought that we just talked about reality TV. Which episode are we on?
We'll get to that because we time hopped, right, guys? We did a Zelda.
What? That's wild because yes, you're correct. Our timeline is messed up right now. We are currently recording this before what I now realize is the episode you're referring to.
Chef's kiss.
This is the real timeline. I don't know what you guys are talking about. Obama's president.
What?
Huh?
Who?
It's all good. But the timeline, we can get to that later. There is still structured lore to the Zelda series, and it starts like this. In the beginning, there was light. The world is created by three goddesses. Din, the gods of power, creates the earth. Nehru, the goddess of wisdom, bestowed order to the world. And Faeror, the goddess of courage, creates life. And then they kind of like, all right, cool. We made the universe, we made the world. All right, let's dip. Whew.
That's dope. That is dope. How you just delivered that.
But before they leave, they're like, hey, we gotta make something called the Triforce. Okay, we're gonna put these three little triangles together.
And then one of them said, why? And then the other one said, merchandise. So people can get tattoos of it when they're 23 and then questioned about it when they're 48.
Why do you have three triangles on your thigh?
Shut up!
It's very important to me. Okay.
Yeah, okay.
But what does this Triforce do? It's actually kind of like the big MacGuffin of the series.
Mm-hmm.
It's
A lot
the
of times
Illuminati,
you're going after the Triforce. You want to find the Triforce. Everything centers around the Triforce. And what that is just like this all-powerful, artifact that will grant anyone's wish if they touch it. And then I guess it just kind of like bounces after that and goes somewhere else. But it's also like
he's like, I hope someone wrote that down.
I hope you know what I do. But it's weird. It's a physical item. You can touch it. In the Wind Waker, you find little fragments of it, and it's just like a little piece of metal. So like it's physical, but it also can be imbued inside of you if you are the one who is courageous enough or full of wisdom or power that this Triforce is now a part of you.
Or whenever you find those little pieces of metal, you just take a little bite.
What would happen if you ate the Triforce? Nintendo,
but
answer the question.
But this is why Nintendo Power still needs to exist. But what would happen if you just took a little bites? You find a little piece of metal, you're like, that's going right in.
Yeah. Does that happen in the game? I have
Right
to ask.
inside.
I'm sorry.
I'm gonna put the power of the Triforce inside me, baby. That's going right in.
Maybe.
Do you eat it?
We'll find out.
Okay.
Only time will tell.
Chloe, be on standby.
She's ready.
So it's weird for decades, people didn't know when this series began. People had guesses, and they were all wrong because the game hadn't come out yet. The first game in the series is called Skyward Sword that came out on the Wii in 2011.
That's the first game in the whole series.
First game in the whole series.
Came out 2011.
Came out 2011. In fact, The Legend of Zelda, the first game, is actually very far down on the timeline, on one of the timelines.
Great, let's keep going.
And Skyward Sword was released on, I think, the 20th anniversary. So like
20 or 25th.
Yeah, on like one of those major milestone anniversaries. Like, all right, guys, lore dump.
And that's soon after that is when that timeline came out that connects all the games to that point.
I wish I could see the office in Nintendo that belongs to the guy who they assigned this to. They were like, here are all the games. I need you to Pepe Sylvia this into a plot.
All right, let me get on Reddit.
And he's like putting like the yarn up, and he's like putting in push pins, and he's like, I need more staples. I need more. And he's like got posters hanging up, and he's like, if I could just figure out the link. And he's like got a picture of link.
That's
there.
it, the link.
The link. He's like, the link. A link to the past. And he's like losing his mind.
It's probably an intern, let's be honest.
I mean,
Probably in a some sort of a facility at this point.
Yeah.
Well, that's no easy feat either. One of the games, the whole world floods. So they're like, well, what comes after that? You can't unflood the world.
Ocean
You can't
world.
pull the drain, and the water is gone now.
Yeah.
The
What do you
world's
do?
flooded. What are you gonna do? Well, we'll talk about it.
So many cliffhangers.
But first, we have to talk about the story of Skyward Sword because it sets up everything. So once the world is created, there's humans, everyone's chilling out, and then this guy, Demise, he is basically the antithesis of evil. He sends his little goons out. He's like, "Hey, I'm gonna get the Triforce, and I'm gonna screw up everything. I'm gonna rule this land."
What a
And
dickhead.
the goddesses were like, well, dang, we can't do anything about that. Let's send all of the people into the sky above the clouds that acts as basically a shield from all the evil going on.
Oh, there's some evil happening.
There's some evil happening.
Everybody to heaven.
That's right. That's right. So they're all in the sky. And then one guy comes along, probably like 100 years, a couple hundred years later. Time is ambiguous. No one knows. No one cares. This guy named Girahim, he's like, hey, I want this guy to come back, and because he's evil and I'm evil. So let's get this guy out of here and let's rule the world.
Girl boss.
So yeah, take Zelda because she's got some power in her.
She's not in the sky.
She's in the sky. She is in the sky.
They go to the sky and they rip her.
Link is in the sky, and they're like, hey, get out of here. We're going to take you. And Link's like, well, I got to go after her. She's my girlfriend.
Is that what he says?
Yeah. He doesn't talk. Link does not speak.
Never said a single word, huh?
He goes,
Yeah.
So end of the game happens. All right. Demise comes out. He's resurrected. He's like, all right, you're going down, Link. And Link stabs him in the heart, and so
he says, I'm gonna mess you up, and Link goes, yay.
Love that.
I'm gonna let you finish, but hold up.
Commando Pro.
Yeah, it's like
it's pretty badass. Actually, Zelda has some really good just final death scenes. It's pretty gruesome for most games being rated E for everyone. So Demise is like, he's kaputs. Before he goes, he says, this isn't the last time you'll see me. My hatred will be passed down into bloodlines, and it will curse every bloodline from you and Zelda forever.
Whoa. Convenient.
That ain't good.
Whoa, that ain't good. But then he's sealed into the Master Sword, the all-powerful sword. It kills evil, but it also seals evil, but it also unleashes evil. Very weird, crazy stuff. So he's gone, right? He's gone. No. A couple games later, then this is the other big boy game. We've talked about it, Ocarina of Time.
Mm-hmm.
So in this game, you're a little boy. You want to be a big boy, but you're just a little boy,
Just a little guy.
a little guy
Just a little guy.
Little guy from the forest.
from the forest.
I'm a
and
little
then
guy, and I'm from the forest.
I'm from the forest, and I gotta go see this tree. And the tree's like, yo, there's some evil afoot, man. You gotta go down to Hyrule Castle. You gotta take care of this.
It's almost more like I gotta go see my dad. The tree.
I
And then,
gotta
like,
go
you
see
get to
my
the tree, and the
dad.
tree's
I
just
gotta
like,
see my dad.
tree's just like, I'm not your dad. Go see this girl.
This
then
girl's
he
my
dies.
dad.
And then he dies right after.
Yeah,
And
You
the
said
tree
go
happened.
see this girl. Peace. I hope you wrote that
Oh.
down.
I don't feel so good.
He just petrifies, and then he's just there. He's just
It's real crusty.
yeah. It's pretty sad. I cried. We all cried.
I cried every time.
But what's this evil? Well, there's a race of Gerudo, which are all women, except every couple hundred years, a man is born. And this guy, I think he might be up to no good. His name is Ganondorf. And he's just a guy, and he's like, hey, I think he wants to steal the Triforce. And Link's got to do it. He's got to stop him. But before he stops him, Ganondorf is like, I'm going to steal Zelda. I already have the Triforce of Power. I just need one more piece of the Triforce, and I'm going to rule the world. So Link's like, yo, I got to pull that Master Sword. That's going to let me kill him. But then he goes in the future 7 years because he can't take on Ganondorf.
Yeah.
He's just a little boy.
He's
So-
just a little guy.
He needs
Yeah,
to be an adult.
Yeah, he goes to the Temple of Time,
Mhm.
and he's like, I got pulled the Master Sword, and then he does it, and then immediately pulls the Master Sword. He's like, and now I sleep.
I see.
Now I'll sleep for several years.
So, but in that meantime, Gandalf just kind of wreaks havoc. He's taken over Hyrule Castle Town. There's evil all over the
Oh,
lands
God.
now
Yeah,
because
that transition where it's like you experience like Hyrule Town and or
Mhm.
Castle Town and all that, like when you're a kid.
it's all happy.
Sleep.
People are dancing
Yeah,
around.
people are like literally dancing, prancing. There's like dogs chasing you, and everything's joyful. You come out after 7 years, and it's like the music is dead silent. It's like you got re-deads everywhere. You got like everything is
zombies.
dark and ominous, and it's just like, well, this is a nightmare.
How cool.
Right. Because
Sucks.
Ganondorf's power is so close to its ultimate form. So Link's like, yo, I gotta stop him. All right. So he in this meantime, Link kills all these bosses, has a grand old time, and then finally kills Ganondorf. But
Nice.
remember, this
Did it.
is this doesn't this sound familiar? This is what Skyward Sword had kind of prophesized,
Mm-hmm.
15 years later after this game came out, but that same structure is still there. There's still this ultimate evil. There is still these two bloodlines of Link and Zelda being descendants from, one of the original races of people. And they're still having this ultimate battle over this, ungodly like power, this super unlimited powerful item. And that is the basis of, all these games. There's either Ganondorf or Ganon, which is like his ultimate baddie form when he has pieces of the Triforce all together.
There's the times where he's a pig.
Right, that's Ganon.
Yeah,
Yes, he's
A
a big old
pig?
pig. He's a pig man.
he's a big old pig man.
He's got some
Okay.
swords. He's ultimate evil.
Yes, pigs are evil. Today I learned.
And now with the timeline, here's where stuff goes awry. Okay.
As if
And this
it
is-
hadn't already with the 7 years thing and whatever else.
So because of that time jump, so at the end of the game, there is inevitably two timelines. There's where Link is an adult and he kills Ganon and peace is restored.
Mhm.
There's also one where he's a child. So he reverts back to a child after he kills Ganon. And he warns everybody. He's like, yo, this Ganondorf is a bad mother. You better lock him up. And they do. They listen to him.
But he
Huh.
does that by going, yeah, oh, yo. And they're like, Ganon's a bad guy. Little Timmy's stuck in a well, and he's like, oh, yeah.
He's got the Triforce of what now? Oh man, we
The
gotta stop
Triforce of
him.
powder. Oh, power.
Well,
Sorry.
power, yeah.
So obviously they execute him with a
Nice.
giant sword through the chest, and he is
Mhm.
sent to the Twilight Realm. That's in a different game, but that is the
Mhm.
same Ganondorf
Yep.
in Twilight Princess. So we're already starting to connect the dots. So that's one timeline. Those are two timelines: the adult where he wins, the child where he warns. But no one could have predicted this third timeline, and that's where Link just straight up dies. There is
Yeah.
a fallen timeline where Link is just like, you know what? I can't do this. I'm a head out, and he dies. It's the fallen hero timeline. So
Mhm.
Ganon's like, yo, I got all this power, and I'm gonna just rule Hyrule. I won. Uh, and Hyrule kind of goes down the hill. It's not a good place. This is where the first game takes place in. It takes place in this fallen timeline. That's why it's kind of desolate. That kind of explains why there are no towns. Things are just kind of ruined. Things are kind of mucked up. Whatever. There's more details that I can't exactly get into. There are these, saints or like mages or all powerful people who do end up holding off Ganon for a little bit after Link's dead. But regardless of what happens, he's always going to come back, right? He's always this ultimate power. He's always this mega evil that's going to just screw up your day.
How does Link keep dying and coming back? Is it like a different guy?
It's the bloodline.
Mhm.
So
But if Link dies as a child, how does he have a kid?
I don't think it necessarily has
I gotta
to be
go.
like, yeah. I don't
There
know.
goes John.
I don't think it necessarily has to be like Link has to have a kid. It's like his cousin could have a kid.
Yeah,
Okay,
suppose,
cool.
It's
suppose he
still
had a
the same
brother.
blood-
it's
bloodline.
the essence of, because Link
Yeah.
always has the power of the Triforce of Courage, or he has the ability to wield that power of the Triforce of Courage.
Yeah.
Zelda has a Triforce of Wisdom.
So is it a little bit like gosh, now I can't remember the religious figure's name. Never mind.
Oh, Jesus.
No, not Jesus. It's the
Buddha.
one
It's
who's
actually a lot like Jesus.
not Buddha. It's the one who the title is passed down from generation to generation to
The
generation.
Dalai Lama.
Oh,
The Dalai
yeah,
Lama.
Yeah.
It's like the Dalai Lama where they're like, no, the Dalai Lama comes back when he dies. He is then resurrected, and we go from town to town showing all of these toys to these kids. And if the kids
Yeah.
pick the Dalai Lama's favorite, we're like, oh, you're the Dalai Lama's reincarnation.
like the Avatar.
Like the Avatar.
Wow.
Yeah.
I mean, I think these games, because remember, this timeline was an afterthought.
Yeah.
This timeline came out 25
No, that was
years
always the
after the
plan.
original
And
game.
the thing that like makes it even weirder too is that like in Wind Waker, the character that you play as isn't technically a part of the bloodline, which is why he has to go out and find the pieces of the
Yeah.
Triforce.
It's all scattered throughout the ocean.
Yeah, it's
And
like because
also-
if he was like born in the bloodline, he would just all that would just leave and come right back to him, and he'd have the power.
But he looks like Link.
But
He
he's
does
not.
look like
He's Link, but he's not that Link.
He looks like Link, but he's not Link.
If it quacks like a duck, it walks like
If
a
it
duck.
chaos like Link, then it.
It must be,
then
yeah.
it's like-
I mean, yeah.
Okay, continue.
So we talked about the fallen hero timeline. We talked a little bit about the child timeline where Link warns of Ganondorf. After this game is Twilight Princess. So what does he do? Well, Majora's Mask is right after that, but that has no direct correlation with Ganondorf
It's
because
just fun.
It's fun. It's just a good time.
They're like,
Also,
hey,
he might be
hey,
dead
guess
the whole
what?
time. Who
The
knows?
moon's coming. Hey,
The
watch
moon's
out.
coming.
The moon's coming. And it's got a
Watch
face
out.
on it. Hey,
Oh,
watch
is that
out.
the one?
The
That's
moon.
the one with the big
Yeah,
scary
that's the
moon?
moon one.
Mhm, mhm.
No, that scared me. Still scares me.
So the next game in that timeline is Twilight Princess, which you see that same Ganondorf be just brutally executed, or at least attempted to be executed, and he kind of fights it off. But he's in the Shadow Realm, the Twilight Realm, and then Zant, the main antagonist for most of the game, he's kind of acting like that Girahim, or like Vadi from other games, like a dark wizard who is trying to just bring back this ultimate evil power. And then he succeeds, and then Link stabs him in the chest again. So
Recurring theme. Yeah.
Classic. Classic move works every time.
Yeah.
Just I wish there's something better that he could do. Wait, there is, because in the adult timeline,
Yep.
Ganon's defeated, right? But dude, you can't hold him back. The power's just too strong, and he comes right back. And the gods of Hyrule are just like, "Yo, we can't stop this guy.
Bro, you gotta end
Yeah.
this.
Hyrule is a lost cause. Let's just flood it with water and put Hyrule under the ocean." And that's exactly what they do. And Wind Waker is the next Zelda game.
It
Yep.
is. It is
Crazy.
It is wild that you are the ultimate evil of the freaking universe, and you're like, but fuck this town specifically.
I hate this place.
This place, Tucson, Arizona. Fuck this town.
What
This
the
is my
hell?
goal. I'm gonna destroy this. And not only that, you're the ultimate evil in the universe, and you've decided, fuck this town. And then you find out, oh, hey, the only person who can defeat me lives in this town. Maybe pick a different town.
But where's he gonna get the Triforce, Alex?
There are other shapes, idiot.
What are you going to tell me? There's
Find
an
another
octagon? There's a
Go
power
get the quad
octagon.
force.
Pentaforce. That's Pentium.
I got the rhombus of ultimate power.
They're like, oh, did you?
Beware.
I got the tridecahedron of ultimate sexuality. So
Ganon
cool.
do be a little thick though.
Ganon.
Let's be real.
speak
Let's
your
be
truth
real.
and say goodbye. Sashay away.
I'm just getting my release out, Alex. Just
God
getting my
bless.
release out.
What's coming next down
Disgusting.
down the old pipeline timeline?
So we're kind of coming to an end here. I skipped over a lot of games. Wind Waker is that last game in that third timeline. It was not the last one. So they flood Hyrule, they flood the world, but Ganondorf, or at least a version of Ganondorf, that same kind of
He learns to
power
swim.
lust.
Son of a bitch.
He never does, unfortunately.
Oh,
He never does.
Turns into a leprous. That's what he does. In
They
Pokemon, right? Or Gyarados, maybe. Maybe all of them. Who knows?
Go ahead, John.
What actually happens? Yeah.
Hey, Nick, before I go
I'm
on,
just theorizing.
before I
here.
go on, great bit.
Thank you. Praise be.
So after Hyrule's flooded, and Ganondorf seems like he's coming back, Link has to find the Triforce of Courage so he can have the power. He has to restore the Master Sword, and then as all water is flooding down, they go under the water into Hyrule, which is being preserved by this like protection force. And then like, oh, there's the Triforce. Oh, he's gonna touch it. And then the King of Hyrule, who is like also your boat, touches it, and he's
Hold
like,
on.
Yeah.
No,
Can you
we don't
say
have
that
to-
sentence
Yeah.
one more time? Because I think I misheard you.
the King of Hyrule has
Correct.
been your boat the entire game.
My sailing vehicle boat made of wood?
Yeah,
That
he
Made
one?
of
talks to
wood.
you.
It has a face of a lion.
That's been my girlfriend's dad that I've been riding on?
She's not your girlfriend, dude. In this game, she's a pirate, and she didn't even know she was Zelda.
She's a pirate, and her dad decided to be my boat.
He's like, hey,
And not
I
his
wanna
boat.
be your
He's
boat.
he's a little boat. He's like a one-person
He's
boat.
a little boat.
The king of
He
Hyrule.
He wants
is
to
only
be a
one
big
person
boat. He's just a little boat.
That king
He
always
doesn't
gets
even
around.
have a. He's just got to like coast around. He doesn't even have a sail or anything.
Yeah, you gotta buy. You have to buy the king a sail with your own money.
Unpopular opinion, but I see why
Broke
they
ass
did Super Mario World first.
Broke
in
ass king.
Universal.
Fair.
He ain't shit.
Well,
Broke
but
ass bitch.
the most important part though about this is obviously the way that Link kills Ganon.
Exactly.
if you wanna go
exactly. So the king touches the Triforce, stealing Ganondorf's wish, and he just says, "I want Hyrule to just be washed away. No more protecting it." So the water from the ocean above just starts pouring down, and Link's like, "Yo,
Kick-ass king, by the way.
so cool, yeah."
What a cool move to protect your people.
Right, and he's like, I'm gonna just stay here and die in the flood. But before I do that, go kill Ganondorf real quick for me. So you and Zelda are like teaming up. She's shooting arrows at him. You're hitting him with your sword, and then you get this sweet opening where you slash him around the back, jump like 20 feet in the air, and you just stab him right through the forehead.
Ooh.
And then he just kind of just like turns to stone. Gah.
What?
Now he's a rock. Okay.
He's a rock.
It's a rock.
The pioneers rode that baby for miles.
Well, they didn't ride him because he's at the bottom of the ocean now.
That's
Got
where
him.
SpongeBob is.
And they're like, yo, Hyrule's gone forever. Link, why don't you go find a new one? So he sails the ocean.
And he said,
No, Link comes back.
Okay.
He swims up. He's like, yo,
He can't swim.
I'm surviving. And he finds a new Hyrule. He sails the ocean looking for a new land. And he eventually finds it. So those are the tent poles of Zelda games. There's always this like bloodline being passed down through generations, or people who embody the soul and the spirit of these people from way back from when people used to live in the sky. And there's always this greater evil. There's always someone trying to resurrect that evil, and there's always someone trying to stop it.
Can I ask a question, a selfish question? 'Cause I
Please
wanna
do.
know.
Please do.
What timeline would you say Breath of the Wild is set in?
mm-hmm.
Maybe
And
it's none of them.
here you go. I got a great answer for you.
Yep.
We don't know.
The only thing we know about it is that it happens after every other game.
Yeah, they
without being
mention
specific to any timeline.
they
So it could be any
mention
of 'em.
the hero of time. They mention the hero of the Twilight.
Sure.
There are characters from past games carved into stone. But it's not really known for sure. You can make a guess, but Nintendo's like, all right, we gave you that one timeline like 10 years ago. We're done doing that. We don't care.
good enough
We're
for
just
now, right?
making fun
What's
video
next?
games.
You're gonna ask me in what order Super Mario saved the princess? Are you freaking idiot?
Okay, the first one, and the second one was after that.
Plumber,
Mario.
man. He's a plumber, my guy. You want me to tell you when
The
he
Mario
competed against
64?
Sonic in the Olympics in his life? Man, come on.
Yeah, that's right. First, okay, he saves the princess, then he rides a go-kart for a little bit. He goes golfing, saves the princess again.
And that's
And
when he
then-
starts playing volleyball, but he gives up
Well,
on that
but then
quick.
there's a whole timeline where it's like it's all just a play, like
Right.
Super Mario 3.
Mario
I think.
3, it's all play.
And then there's the
Yeah.
one where it's all a puppet show, which is Paper Mario.
And then there's
Yeah.
one where he goes to the Beijing Olympics in 2008.
That's right.
Yep.
How
Yeah.
could you forget?
How could you forget?
The
The most
point
important
is-
Mario game.
Nintendo does not care about timelines.
Not really. The
No,
fans
just-
wanted it
they-
so bad, though.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, once you put out 30 of the same game, people are going to start asking you when the puzzle pieces are going to fit together.
Yeah.
Mhm.
They gave it their best shot, and I do appreciate the effort that Skyward Sword tried to make in connecting these games in some coherent way. There is a reason behind all of this. It isn't just random chaos. It is like some pure evil who's just, passed along through generations and generations into different people.
It is wild that now they are taking that same formula they did with that game and they're applying it to Pokemon, where they're like, this is the beginning of Pokemon. With Arceus,
Right.
Yeah.
they're
Is that
like,
true?
this is how Pokemon started. This was before
Yeah.
we even knew Pokemon could be pets. And
They're
now,
scary. They're too scary. I don't like it.
I don't like Pokemon. Pokemon is scary.
That worm is too big.
Agree.
that weasel's not big enough.
That weasel's
Oh,
not
boy.
big enough.
7'4". All right, buddy. Try again. I want one that's at least 7'5". All right.
Okay. Pokemon are very dangerous. And then you walk up to like Mr. Mime and he's like sitting on a bench. And they're like, all of them. They're all dangerous.
Especially
lit-
that one.
A literal fish. Dangerous.
Dangerous.
That Magikarp ain't doing shit. Come on, man.
So I don't know how much time we have, but if you allow me some time, I would like at least a minute to gush.
You may gush 4.
Please proceed.
You may gush 4. Hold on. Wait.
And
Right.
Michael, please gush with me.
6
Absolutely.
minutes. Go.
Gushers.
So what's so great about the Zelda game isn't just the exploration, it's about the discovery of weapons. It's about
Mhm.
fighting these intense bosses. It's about exploring these dungeons where, the visuals and the creativity of puzzle solving all comes together
Even
and
though
creates
some
this.
puzzles are bullshit.
Some puzzles may be
Hate them.
bullshit.
Every single one.
You're like, where's that switch? Oh, it's under like this like weird thing that I didn't even like
The water
normal.
temple, I got to redirect the water 4 times to go back
Yeah.
to the switch that I missed. Oh,
Listen,
God
so
damn it.
annoying.
They're all gonna have some clunkers, but
Yeah.
they're also filled with unforgettable moments and a sense of magic that I honestly do not feel in any video game besides Zelda.
Mhm.
I still have games I've been playing for years and over a decade, but Zelda is still this, it still has something that other games don't, right? And it's the worlds, it's the monsters, it's the combat, it's the weapons, it's all that put together, and it's unlike anything else. And with Breath of the Wild, that's such a huge deviation from the game, while also being the series in its purest essence. In fact,
Mhm.
Michael, you may know this. The creation of that game came from a tech demo that they kind of rewrote the code for the original Legend of Zelda on the NES and put like the physics and chemistry of Breath of the Wild. So you could, you know, put something on fire and then, swing a giant fan at it. And then that fire would go push onto something else and catch an enemy on fire. You could play around. It's more open. It's more free. It's
Yeah.
kind of what the original game was meant to be all along.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's one of those things like even playing the game, there's so many possibilities for different ways that you can tackle things that like the game plays like a polished tech demo
Mhm.
with a story and open world behind it. And for me, it's like it's Breath of the Wild is like the perfect evolution for Zelda games to reach its final form.
Mhm.
Granted, we'll see like how they can like build on top of it with Breath of the Wild 2, but to the point where it's like the only other games that I think like even modern day that can have a similar experience to me were like the Dark Souls games, and that's part of the reason why I love them so much. Is like it's all about just seeing this like you have this giant world in front of you, go explore, go do things. We're going to give you vague direction, just have fun, go do what you want.
Mhm.
Whether it's like just go like try and talk to like all the little tiny fairies and try and get all their little powers, or like just go straight to Ganon and try
Right.
and kill him. Like best of luck to you.
Need to try that next.
Yeah, but it's just Legend of Zelda to me is such a monumental series, not just for what it's given to the games industry as a whole, but for opening the doors to exploring worlds that we wouldn't have thought were possible through video games.
Mhm.
It's like we were so limited to games like Pong and like Mario, where it's like you're just going left to right when like everything is happening upon this like X and Y axis. And Legend of Zelda, maybe not at first, but they introduced the idea of a Z axis to a game.
Yeah.
Like, there is depth.
And kind of crushed it on their first try. Pretty impressive. And it became a building. Ocarina of Time became a building block for not just Zelda games, but for action adventure games. I like Dark Souls and Elden Ring. I
Mhm.
owes a lot to Ocarina of Time. I mean, Z targeting and the
Yeah.
sword play, and how you kind of adventure around. It's so rudimentary in Ocarina, but so many games built their experiences off the backs of some 90s N64 game.
Some
Mhm.
people might say Link walked, so every other game could run.
I would agree,
Mhm.
but that's just because I'm a big fan. Now,
Yeah.
my one last question to Nick and Alex. Alex,
Ah,
you played a little bit more, but did this conversation at all enlighten you to try some other experiences? I know it's not your kind of game all the time, but does it at least pique your interest?
are you asking me if I will play Breath of the Wild now? Because the answer is still pretty firm no.
I'd
No,
say to any
Yeah, I'd say Alex, you'd be better geared towards playing like Ocarina of
I already
Time
played
or
that. So yeah.
okay, so
Yeah.
I would
Okay.
probably the next one that I would say is if you haven't played it yet, not Breath of the Wild, fuck. The ocean one.
Wind
Ocean
Waker.
Man.
Wind
Wind
Waker?
Waker.
Wind Waker's
Yeah.
a great introduction to the
So I have
Zelda
to get a Wii
series.
U.
No.
I will let you borrow my Wii U if you promise to play it.
No.
Still
Fine.
no. Wow.
I can let you borrow my GameCube.
Yes.
Yeah,
I will
Fair
do
enough.
that.
Fair enough.
Nobody wants to play a Wii U.
Come
Unfortunately.
on,
When I
play the
curse my
Wii
hands with the
U.
Wii U.
I'll try
So-
it. I mean, next time I'm over. Why not?
Yeah, there you go.
There we
Nick will
go.
play it.
Wii U, Wii U. Just so I can do that.
John,
Nick?
thanks for coming on. This kicked butt.
Oh
Yeah.
wait, do I have to go to give my answer?
Well, I
We
thought
have
that
time.
you already gave your answer because you said that you would go over to his
yeah,
house. to try it.
absolutely. I mean, I'll play
Come to
it,
my
but
house. We'll have a slumber party. We'll play Zelda. It's gonna be so fun.
We'll get
That's
some
adorable.
Some Doritos.
So cute. Michael, why don't we
Mountain
ever have
Dew.
slumber parties?
I don't know. You never invite me over.
That's true. That's true.
I don't invite
John,
you over
thanks
either.
for coming
so-
on. John,
Hey,
thanks for
man.
coming. Hey, John, thanks for. Hey, John, thanks. Hey, John.
Hey, John.
Oh no, he's stuck.
Dear John,
We're in a time loop.
thanks for coming on. Really
Hey,
appreciate it.
It's been a pleasure.
You and Nick, I want you to go ahead and plug your podcast and give them your pitch for our listeners out there.
John.
If you want to discover the truth behind chicken, big chicken, Tyson chicken, or you just want to listen to two guys dick around for about an hour, what better place to go than anchor.fm/BCB
hyphen
podcast, or
It'll
just,
be in the show notes.
Yeah, you guys are
Or
nailing this.
or just go to Spotify and type in Big Chicken Bits.
We're the only big chicken bits out there. Do you know that?
Can I ask you guys a question?
Please.
Have you heard of the podcast, the Beef and Dairy Network?
Should we?
The Beef and Dairy Network is a podcast strictly about the beef and dairy industry, where they bring
Oh.
on writers and comedians to do nothing but lie about the beef and dairy industry. They give false facts, they play false characters, they do nothing but bits about the beef and dairy industry.
I
So
like that.
they exclude poultry.
It
Yeah, that's a little
sounds like
sketchy.
there
I
was
don't
a
know.
small hole in that format that could have included chicken, and you guys were like, we're just gonna scoot ourselves on in here.
Well, I will also
should.
say that these are not lies. We are discovering
Total fact.
real truths about big chicken. I think there is one giant chicken that
There
is
has to be.
being pumped full of drugs that we will all be eating from one day.
Yeah, they're working on it right now. I'm telling you,
Mhm.
Tyson's. They're on something.
Are we allowed to say that company's name?
Oh, we always do.
Okay, cool.
we're like this. You kidding me?
When we come back, Nick has a quick this.
That's right.
And we're back.
Wow, that was quick.
Yeah, you edit in like a music interlude every time I do that, so I
That is
just let
true.
you do it now.
Okay. Yeah, it's. I guess someday we'll have another advertisement in there. What do you think?
Yeah, probably because we're really close to having to push Anchor.
Hey guys, do you have a podcast that you want to record about?
What?
No, we're not doing the ad.
No,
Oh.
not yet.
Can we do an ad for timers? Because I certainly need one.
I was trying to bring up a timer and I typed in calculator.
That happens a little too often, doesn't it?
Yeah, I have it. Ready, set, snow.
Oh. What I'm about to talk about today is a spin-off of a spin-off. It's a intersection of vortices that is hands down the most fun I've ever had with a video game in quite some time. And as of a few nights ago, I have actually completed this game. And as all spin-offs go, it seems as though this one was a little too short. And much like this quick this, it's not very time consuming for a very specific reason. Our quick thises are short because we can't be asked to turn these topics into full episodes. And just like the topic of today's quick this, Tiny Tina's Assault on Dragon Keep, a Wonderland's one-shot adventure, it's just what we need after a full-length, in-depth ramble about BioShock Infinite or Zelda, for instance.
You said one shot. Is this a tabletop RPG?
Well, we'll get to that.
Okay.
But what if these spin-offs did spawn full-length episodes or full-length games? Hold that onto the back of your head because we'll get to that later. But if you know anything about me, you'll know that I love sarcastic media, Everything from Voltaire to Kurt Vonnegut to more jocular commentary on society, as found within some of my favorite movies. But consider video games as a form of comedy for a minute. It's not very often that you stumble upon a game that makes you belly laugh or wheeze laugh, but damn it, this Borderlands 2 spinoff got me good at several times. I downloaded it on a whim, seeing as it was based on the Borderlands franchise, but more importantly, it was free. And as somebody who's balling on a budget, I jump at every PS Plus free monthly game that I can find. And seeing as the word one shot was in the title, I was even more down for it because I didn't want to sink too much time into this as I'm still trying to beat Zelda Breath of the Wild. So I play it exciting, but I'm expecting a brief respite into the days of my Borderlands days back in high school and early college. And wouldn't you know it, it's all about Dungeons and Dragons.
Hey.
Or, as they call it in the game, bunkers and badasses.
Yes.
Bunkers
and badasses!
Yeah, not to infringe on any copyrights. But I've had a blast playing this game. It plays exactly as you'd expect a modern Borderlands first-person shooter to play. It's very fluid, it's engaging, and who could not mention the loot that you get, the different tiers of guns that you can get. You start off with the crappy guns, and you slowly earn more and more valuable loot, and of course, money. Now, I just said something that doesn't always gel with a game of D&D. I talked about guns. What's that all about? Well, the game addresses this within the very, very first few moments of gameplay when you click on a weapon vending machine and the voice says, "I'm here to buy some magic bullets," or some such like that. And then after that, you get to buy some grenades from a similar vending machine, and it's named things like Lightning Bolt and Fireball. When you throw them, you shoot out sparks or fire, respectively, from your palms. So there you go. There's magic firearms and magic explosives addressed right off the bat. It's these moments of self-awareness within a game that really bring out a chortle in me. So there's also the D&D jokes, which I haven't mentioned yet, but if you know anything about the Borderlands series of games, you'll know that Tiny Tina's a little crazy at times. And she just says all these funny things. And she's the dungeon master, of course, telling you about this adventure. She's telling you this tale and walking you through it. And you have to save the queen from the dragon keep. That's the big thing you have to do. And one of the players in the game calls her out right off the bat. The starting town starts off all sunny and rainbow colored skies. And the player's like, no, isn't it supposed to be what is it? Bunkers and Badasses campaign where the dragon's taken over? She's like, oh yeah, right. Then immediately it goes like stormy and red tinged skies. So it's funny things like that. It's little things like your DM having all the power in the world are referenced throughout this game, often to hilarious ends. So there you have it. That's Tiny Tina's Assault on Dragon Keep, a Wonderland's one-shot adventure. I think it is available for free on PS Plus either last month or maybe it was this month. But you only need $15 to play it, which is, I'd say, totally worth the price. Or if you don't feel like downloading it, you can just buy Tiny Tina's Wonderlands, which is a full-length game, and it comes out the 25th of March, which may or may not be after this episode releases or not. But that's a game I'll certainly be buying, and I was most certainly playing D&D with these fine gentlemen right here on Entertain This.
Hey, that was pretty good.
Wow, almost 5 minutes on the nose.
Yeah, almost on the nose. That was incredibly good.
I did it.
You did kind of spin me into an announcement that I think we can go ahead and make just because of conveniency. Since the beginning of Entertain This, we've talked about doing a spinoff podcast. I think it was the second episode of Entertain This was about Dungeons and Dragons.
Mm-hmm.
And we said we want to do an actual play Dungeons and Dragons podcast. What an actual play podcast is, it's people sitting around a table and they play on the podcast Dungeons and Dragons. You get to listen as the story kind of unfolds. We're finally in the year 2022, 2 years after starting the podcast, deciding, hey, maybe we go ahead and do this. So what should be coming here in the next couple months? I don't want to set a complete timeline yet, but things have been moving pretty fast this last week. Is we are going to finally start what we are calling Project Icosa, which will be a second podcast that we offer under the Entertain This brand that is completely focused around an actual play D&D experience, which I will DM. Michael will be playing in, Nick will be playing in, Chloe, our fact checker, will be playing in. We have a new face named Dan who will be coming in and playing, and then we'll have a rotating cast of guest stars who come on and play D&D with us as we spin a tale for you. And we're very excited about it, so be on the lookout for that. Nick, interestingly, must have written this script before figuring out that he is playing a gunslinger, so there are guns in D&D. Thank you. Oh no, sorry Siri, go away. Thanks to Matthew Mercer of Critical Role fame for homebrewing a gunslinger class that Nick will be taking full advantage of. It'll be very cool. So that'll be fun. That's coming out here soon. So keep on the lookout for that. But in the meantime, hey, what the hell?
Hey, sorry. I'm not actually fact-checking you. I'm fun-facting you.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay?
Oh, boy.
Yeah, that's fine.
So during this episode, I found out that Matthew Mercer actually voices a character named Ganon in a TV show called There Will Be Brawl, which is like a gritty, like video game-ish TV show, but it's like live action. So that's a thing.
That's crazy.
Speaking of
that-
Matthew Mercer, shout
That
out.
really tied it all together.
Thanks!
I wasn't expecting that.
I
Damn.
came in and put a pretty little bow on top.
Well done.
God,
Well,
gave me a heart attack in the process.
oh yeah, no, that's
I was like,
It's
whoa.
But in the meantime, stick around for the ending, Chloe. If there's anything that we haven't covered yet on the show that you want to hear us cover, there are a couple ways that you can shout out to us and tell us what you want to hear us talk about next, or maybe we'll invite you on to be a guest like John came on to do today. The ways you can do that are pretty simple. You can go to our website, www.entertainthis.net. Scroll all the way to the bottom. There's a questionnaire that you can fill out there with suggestions, or you could just email us directly. We are entertainthispodcast@gmail.com. You can find us on Twitter. We are entertain_this. On Instagram, we are entertain this podcast. You can find us on Facebook. We are podcast entertain this. And until next week, entertain us so we can entertain you, and you can entertain this. See you next Friday. Bye.
Bye-bye. Special thanks to John Kincaid for writing and being our special guest on this episode. Additional commentary was provided by Nick Mustakangas, Alex Steele, and Michael Savoya. Our showrunner and resident fact-checker is Chloe Price. Our theme music is Rushable by Aaron Spencer, with interstitial music by DJW. Tune in every Friday for new episodes, and thanks for listening.